Batman Superman World's Finest issue 15. Mark Waid writing with Dan Mora on the art. So we introduced Ultramorpho, whatever he's called.
Yep.
At the end of last issue. And he fights Superman. Superman's really struggling. Robin's trying to like carry Superman away and be like, really get your strength back up. It's the whole thing until, of course, Batman shows up with a suit made out of the Metal Men. He looks like a Megazord, where like one leg's red, one's blue.
This is I don't want to say this is stupid and I love it, because I usually reserve that for the Fast movies, but this is silly and I love it. You know.
Well, it makes enough sense, and then it kind of like pays off later, where Superman like Metamorpho makes like a suit of himself for Superman.
That's what I was gonna get through to. There is like, oh, there's all this kryptonite radiation and kryptonite there. How can Superman get through it? And Metamorpho turns himself into a suit
of lead, of course.
Yes. Yeah. Well, of course, there's lead there, but like, yeah. Looks like a spacesuit for Superman, and just it makes me definitely feel like you have to have a really good relationship with Metamorpho if you're on a team with him, because at some point he's going to surround you as armor or something.
That does take trust. It's a very good point. I never really thought about that, but yeah, it's a very good point.
Right.
So we also see that people are getting controlled by Mechanique, and that's where the Doom Patrol are in Washington. Mm-hmm. So that stuff's set up. There's a surprising amount going on in this, honestly, but the Dan Mora art with all the fighting's fantastic.
Yeah, it's the rise of the robots, right? So a lot of these robotic villains and characters are starting to wreak havoc, and like we see the Challengers of the Unknown, which I can't tell you the last time I even thought of that property. So the fact that Waid's pulling
what was it called?
Yeah, I know.
New wave of DC heroes.
Yeah, it was not for me. But yeah, so we see the Challengers, they're having issues with one, and there's all sorts of fun robots. But we see Red Tornado too at the beginning. He's making some saves, and then programming stuff happens, and he takes off.
But it seems like they're not actually in control. It's actually New Morpho. No, sorry, not New Morpho. New Mazo. That's the name. New Mazo, who is controlling the original Amazo as well as all the scientists. He's got like, so by the end of the issue, like Batman and Superman have been kidnapped. Metamorpho wants to go fight them, and Robin's like, no, we're not going to win, because Robin, there's actually like a really great like Robin's like leg gets covered in acid at one point, right? And his leg looks messed up. It was actually quite a dark little,
and he can't walk, right? Like it's all gross.
Yeah, one of the Metal Men like gives him like a metal cast effectively to help him. But like, yeah, we need to plan, and he wants to call in the Teen Titans, but they're busy. He wants to call in Supergirl, but she's busy. In fact, the issue ends with the sort of a cliffhanger with Supergirl like losing touch with him. Is seemingly the Batmobile is being taken over by, again, whatever's controlling all these robotic enemies, and is going to ram into a wall. I suspect that wall's going to open at the start of next issue, but that's my guess. That's my guess anyway, but we'll see. So that's all good stuff, but Batman and Superman are held captive. They've got collars around their neck, which Superman's in particular is like dampening his powers. Right. So I will say this, like this book, because there's so much going on and it's so wacky, like I always forget what it was about until I start reading the next issue, and then I'm like, oh yeah, it's all this stuff. Oh yeah, Metamorpho and Stag was dead, but he's not dead because he was a robot instead.
Well, then we find out that those were like the Ivo, his first attempt at a Mazo was these duplicates, but that wasn't big enough, so he created Mazo, and now it seems like New Mazo is the logical conclusion. So it seems like New Mazo can control robots instead of take instead of copy the powers of the Justice League.
It's also zany in like a Silver Age way, and I feel like comics sometimes try to be too silly, and it's the problem that I have with Williamson's writing sometimes, where they just put in too many ideas. But Mark Waid's very good at just kind of juggling them in this way that feels like he's just having fun, and he's riffing, and he's just throwing in weird shit. And I think part of it's because he never tries to pretend that the story's more important than it is. Never.
Well, there's that, and he treats it with the right level of that, to where he's like, it just gets to the edge of being too silly, and then he pulls it back, right?
Yeah.
So
I think it's that. I think it's the fact that he never tries to pretend that it's like the most important story ever. But I think on top of those two things, it's also the fact that the actual character dynamics are still there. You know, when Robin's calling Supergirl for help, who was in the run, you know, in the previous arc, and he's like basically begging for help because Batman and Superman are held captive, and she then gets worried because something might be wrong with them. Like, it's like, you know what? The actual emotional connection to the characters and their jeopardy is still hitting, even though the story isn't trying to pretend that it's the end of the world again, and you know, it's like, because comics do that all the time. It's always every story is the biggest story. You know, like I always applaud when a story just does like this is a smaller personal thing. We're not doing like this crisis is bigger than the last crisis. You know, none of that bollocks. So there's just the way he juggles all those expectations, so I never feel like the book's aiming for something higher than it is, but it's also feeling like it's over delivering and how much I care about the characters. Is just really good. It's really good writing that Waid's right, and then then the Dan Mora art, and you have like a really attractive book as well. So
yeah, well, and all of the robots too look distinct. So they have that vibe of, you know, all the metal men look like the metal men, but they have little Mora touches on them, and same with like Amazo and New Mazo. And it's just fun for me as like a DC Comics history guy, seeing all these other characters pop up. You know, just because I know Mark Waid has an encyclopedic knowledge of the DC universe, so to see like Ultivac, I'm sure was had something to do with Challenge of the Unknown.
Probably,
but,
yeah.
You know, but just to see that pop up and you know, Chemo popping up, and so yeah, it's a whole lot of fun.
Yeah,
like
Chemo's who Supergirl's fighting. Yeah,
that's right. Yep.
So no, it's all just super fun, and the way he juggles it, like Mark Waid is great at writing superhero comfort food in a way that I don't think, because I think sometimes like you throw that around for books that are just okay. I think Mark Waid is exceptional at writing that, but it's really good and well crafted, and I think that's something that should be applauded. When I do, like, you know, come out of a lot of books going, oh, it was a 6, it was a 7, it was a 6, it was a 7. I think Mark Waid is really good at it, where I came out of it feeling like I had a great time, and it was achieving exactly what it was setting out to do. So, what are you rating World's Finest Man?
I'm going to give this a solid 8.
Yeah, I think this is like an 8, yeah. 8, yeah, well, maybe 8.5, but I'll say 8. It's just a great, solid superhero comic that's pulpy in all the right ways and zany in all the right ways.